Hello, today we remember the death in 1967 of Robert Oppenheimer. He was appointed director of the Manhattan Project towards the end of the Second War, tasked with developing an atomic weapon that would win the war for the Allies. And of course, it was used against Japan in August 1945. But Oppenheimer's desire to work for the development of an atomic bomb had really been because he wanted to destroy Germany. His views were very left-wing. He was a political activist, not a communist, as some claimed, but certainly sympathetic to communism and very anti-fascism, anti-Nazism, and he thought the bomb was the best way of dealing with Hitler's horrendous government and policies. But of course, by the time the bomb was developed, Hitler had already been defeated and had surrendered. So what the purpose that he had seen for the bomb was no longer valid. And he didn't think that it was correctly used in bombing Japan. It caused huge amounts of death and destruction, which shocked him, apparently. But in any case, he thought that it wouldn't bring Japan to surrender, though indeed he was wrong about that. But he thought that it was probably only being used by the American government to show the Russian government how powerful they were and what a strong weapon they'd got, looking to after the war, when conflict between those two great powers was likely to ensue. And so he found that the reason he'd been developing the bomb was taken over, and what he had done, what he'd created, was used by other people for different purposes of which he didn't approve. It seems to me, as we go into Lent, that this is often the way with us human beings, that we feel we're doing our best, we're engaging something we think is right, but there's something in the way society works, something in human nature that causes our best intentions sometimes to go wrong, whether it's just at the level of trying to care for somebody and not getting right, or a political level where we vote for or we hope for some change in society through a new government, and it doesn't happen. There are all sorts of ways in which hopes that were once well-founded turn to dust. When the people made up the story about Adam and Eve, and God telling Adam not to eat the fruit of the tree, but Adam eventually deciding that he would, and then offering it to Eve, Adam is only doing what seems quite harmless and quite ordinary, not only in having the apple himself, but inviting Eve to join him. And yet we see in this story something which goes right back, no doubt, to the days of those who made up the story, because they wanted to explain how it was that human endeavour often leads to disaster, however well meant it is. And I think that the fall, which I think is the Christian doctrine which emerges out of the Adam and Eve story, is wrong when it suggests that each human being is born evil, which is a slight exaggeration, but that's the gist of what some people say about the fall. But I do think the fall is a helpful way of thinking about human society, because I think though human beings may be born good, there's something in society which somehow turns their best intentions into something not so good, something which is often destructive. And so I think today, as we go through Lent and think about the frailty of human beings, we want to offer to God our human natures, recognizing that we need God to use our best intentions and turn them into something good, and not allow the pressure that comes from society or from within the way that human beings work to turn them against the good that was intended.